Hi everyone, today we'll be having a chat with Kristal Duncan-Williams, who is the project lead at Youth Capital. We'll be speaking about a very important campaign that Youth Capital has started, which is the Fund Our Futures campaign. We'll also discuss youth unemployment in the country.
Sure.
Before we get into the Fund Our Futures campaign, can you paint a picture of the current state of unemployment in South Africa?
Sure. So there are nearly 9 million young people that are not in any form of education, employment, or training. That sounds like a big number, but for any South Africans who have watched soccer or some kind of big sports event at the F&B Stadium, we'd have to fill that stadium 90 times to house all of the young people that are not in any employment, education, or training. That's the biggest stadium we have, so I use that as a point of reference. But just to give an idea of the scale of the problem, and then to add to that, most of the young people who are unemployed have never had work experience. So 8 out of 10 young people who are unemployed have never had a job. And as I'm sure you and I can both attest to, if we, when we first graduate or you first matriculate and you're trying to look for some work, they always ask for work experience, and you can't get work experience if you've never had a job, and you can't get a job because you have no work experience. So young people are kind of stuck. And this is really where public employment programs come in and fill the gap, and have been shown to have success in Brazil and India and other countries. So it's not a new thing in the South African context. That's really where the government kind of steps in to fill a gap.
I think that in itself justifies why funding should continue. It's probably one of the most, one of the most effective initiatives that government implemented, and now to suddenly just cut funding for it, I don't think it's right. But can you just touch on how detrimentally this loss of funding for the presidential youth stimulus could further impact unemployment?
Part of the problem why government and Treasury are kind of saying, well, it needs to end, is because the presidential employment stimulus was set up as a COVID response, right? There were 14 different programs under this big umbrella term. And so people are like, well, COVID's done, the world's moved on, so things that are COVID response, should be ending. But I don't think we can think of it like that, right? So young people were struggling to find work and to get work experience before COVID came along. It just kind of made things worse, but we were on this trajectory anyway. And so young people would be in this situation whether there was COVID or not. And this isn't, a lot of, if you look at the Basic Education Employment Initiative specifically, which is the initiative that we're really focused on because it's the one that had the most impact for young people specifically, a lot of young people placed in schools around COVID protocols. So people might say, well, that's all past now, nobody's sanitizing, people aren't wearing masks, we don't need this. But what they don't realize maybe is that the majority of young people were actually placed in classrooms. So some young people were doing those COVID protocols. But if you think about it, we know that in South Africa, we have an education crisis. We had the Pearl study come out recently that showed that 4 in 5 grade 4s can't read for meaning in any language, right? So the majority of young people in our schools, of learners in our schools, in these foundation phases where literacy is really key, because, if you can't read for meaning, you can't actually do anything. And we're failing young people that early on in laying these very strong foundations. And so young people are in classrooms, think about no fee and low fee schools where you have ratios of one teacher to 50 kids in a class. Having just one extra person in a class can make a huge difference. And now it becomes 1 to 25 instead of 1 to 50. And we've, through the campaign, we've heard from 100 young people and counting about the experience. And something that comes through very clearly is young people say, I can see the difference, even though I was only there for a few months. When I started, this boy couldn't read. And when I left, he could read. When I started, this girl was struggling with this math problem, and I could help her with it. So, this program, particularly the Basic Education Employment Initiative, and there are other programs within that, like the Social Employment Fund, that are also really valuable. But the one that we're speaking about specifically, you're actually getting double, like bang for your buck. In other words, you're getting a young person work experience, and you're also giving extra support in schools. And so I think, for young people, this is great. But for everybody else, we all care about education, whether we have children in school, whether we're planning on having children. We know that getting education right is really key for the future of South Africa. And here is like the program's already set up. We already know that it has impact. We just need to keep funding it.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll have a link to the campaign in the description box, so please support and add your name so that we can have more support being offered to unemployed youth in South Africa. You can also check out our website for more details. Comment down below if you have any experience with the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.